road trip. They literally took a road trip.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Road trip. So sweet. Welcome to Baggage Claim, an unofficial Jet Lag the Game companion podcast. Today, we're unpacking episode 6 of season 14, the finale of SnaKe South Korea. I'm Kira.
I'm Jaya.
And I'm Casey.
Jaya, of all the challenges and curses this season, which do you think you would be best at?
This is a great question. I think I would probably be best at Bug Friend. I am pretty good at finding bugs, and I'm pretty good at catching bugs, so I think that's the one that I would most reliably be able to do.
That's a great one also. Casey, what about you?
I actually feel pretty good about my ability to find a highly rated pin on Google Maps. I feel like, I don't know that I would have immediately thought the park in that specific location, but I feel like I would have been able to walk around and get a sense of what I thought would have been a highly rated place.
I feel like, and I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure I said that I would have been bad at it. However, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think that maybe in retrospect, I could have done the pinecone stick baseball, mostly because I think I could have taken the time to practice it. So I feel like that's the one that I could lock in the best for. Well, let's jump into the recap. As per the new round robin rules this season, Ben and Sam draw straws to see who gets a second run and a chance at redemption. Ben pulls the longer straw, which means he's the final snaker, starting in Dongdaegu, which everyone agrees is the best starting point on the map. Sam and Adam use their blocker head start to head up the high-speed line to Daejin, so they'll have more flexibility and maneuverability once Ben starts moving. But Ben counters this strategy by choosing not to move at all and instead waiting for the blockers to make the first move. Sam and Adam do sort of make the first move by activating a tracker on Ben. Ben decides to wait out the tracker and then take the first train east towards Pohang. Sam and Adam correctly predict this move and hop on the exact same train that Ben is about to get on. In order to avoid getting spotted by Ben, they decide to hide in the train bathrooms, and thus the toilet vlog was born. So now all three players are on the same train up the east coast of the country. Woo! Sam and Adam hoped to pull a curse that could force Ben off the train and let them get ahead, but that ends up being way harder than they thought. All three of them spend pretty much the next 5 hours riding the train together, which has to be the most time we've ever gotten with all three of them. During this time, we get an iconic group snack zone in Pohang, where they try some Pokemon bread, and they contemplate getting on a train coming out of a portal in the ocean. Ben doesn't have a whole lot of choice in his route, because in order to actually beat Adam's distance, he has to stay on relatively quick lines. He beelines it west to Yongsan, and Sam and Adam follow in tow until finally they pull a handwritten curse of the human timetable. Ben comes so close to pulling it off, but he ends up being about 20 seconds off, which is devastating. Adam and Sam finally pull ahead and battle challenge Ben and Yongsan with the Dokji battle challenge. After one scene change, 2 montage sequences, and 3 successful flips, Adam once again wins the battle challenge, making him the winner of Season 14, SnaKe South Korea. To conclude our recap, I've come up with a title to highlight the most important moment of the episode. I thought it was really fun that we got to see all 3 of them on the same train for so long, so I have come up with the title, Road Trip.
They literally took a road trip.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Road trip.
So sweet.
I love that. I also came up with a suggestion, but this was based on Sam and Adam really struggling to pull a curse card the whole time in reference to a beautiful video on the internet.
Casey, I think we might have the same title again.
So no curse?
Well, with that, I'll pass things off to you, Casey, for the Strat Chat.
Thanks, Kira. Welcome back to the Strat Chat, our segment where we break down the strategy and gameplay of the episode. In this finale, I think the most interesting strategy was played by the blockers. Sam and Adam got on the same train as Ben and planned to get him to disembark with a curse. But as we saw, this plan lasted for longer than expected due to so many card pulls with no curses. But it was eventually successful and allowed the blockers enough time to set up a run-ending battle challenge. While this obviously made for excellent trio antics, what do you think of the strategy here?
I think that because they already had the battle challenge, it wasn't too bad for them to just wait for a curse, especially because they only actually waited until the start of the high speed line. Ben didn't really have any options. They kind of knew where he was going. And so until they reached Yongsan, knowing that they could play a battle challenge if they even got one station ahead of him, I think it wasn't too risky. I think it made a lot of sense, and the fact that they didn't get a curse was just severely unlucky.
I feel really conflicted about this, and I know I've said earlier in the season that it never really makes sense to me for the blockers to be on the same train as a snaker, and I think we've seen that that's not true. There are some situations where it is strategic for everyone to be on the same train, specifically if you can use a curse to then get in front of them on a long line. But I am still conflicted here, specifically because this is the last run. So both the blockers and the snaker know what distance the snaker is trying to get to. And so it's interesting to me that Sam and Adam chose to go on a route where they're banking on pulling a particular kind of card, because even if they pulled a curse, they may have pulled a curse that didn't actually require Ben to get off the train, or Ben may have succeeded at the curse, in which case they would have just been on the same train for even longer. Whereas if Adam and Sam had chosen to stay on the high-speed line or make it into the middle of the country and try to cut him off preemptively, then that is, in my head, a more guaranteed way of getting in front of Ben and getting a battle challenge in front of him. Specifically because, unlike previous runs where there really is an incentive to catch the snaker early on because you don't know how far they'll be able to get, here, as long as the blockers are able to catch Ben before Ben goes way, way far, Ben still isn't going to win. And in order for Ben to get into first place, he's going to have to pretty much loop the whole country. So there's not really a way for him to win without eventually at some point going to Yongsan. Clearly we've seen that going on the same train worked out here, but it did seem super risky considering that there were other options that would be allowing Ben a more stress-free beginning of the game, but the beginning of the game doesn't matter if all you need to do is cut Ben off at some point.
I do think that at the beginning of his run, they were thinking about, okay, if we catch him immediately, then Sam can still take a run. In that case, I think what they did makes a lot of sense, because going the other direction and just sort of cutting him off at the top of the country and forfeiting the entire eastern half of the country doesn't make sense if they aren't certain that this is the last run.
That's a great point that I hadn't considered.
I think both of you have brought up really interesting points, especially, Kira, what you said about if the strategy was different or should have been different because this was likely the final run. And I think that it seemed like the blockers were kind of taking an interesting strategy here. But for Ben, do you think that his strategy here was based on the fact that this was his last run and he knew how much he needed to get to win? Do you think that he was making choices to optimize that? Or do you think that there were missed opportunities to try to go for that strategy?
I feel like, and maybe I'm not reading this correctly, I feel like his first move was purely to make sure that he didn't lose right away. So he thought that Sam and Adam were on the high-speed line, and he was correct at the time. And so he just didn't want to embarrass himself and lose with 20 miles. And so he went in the direction that felt safe. And then as soon as he made that decision, he sort of didn't have any other decisions that he could make until Yongsan, because he was doing all of that really smart thinking of, well, if I take a slower line, I physically can't make up the distance. I physically can't get up to Adam's length. And so it does feel like his opening move determined everything that happened later, because even though technically every time you hit a node, you have a decision point, that wasn't really the case. Like, he didn't really have any decisions that he could make until reaching Yongsan.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think Ben really only made one decision in this episode, and it was if he was going to go east or south or take the high-speed line, which he ruled out almost immediately. And after that, after he decided to go east, the rest of it was kind of set.
And I suppose he was saying in the episode that he really, at the last moment, considered going on the high-speed line, which could have been interesting and makes me think about Sam's really successful run where he immediately went into a challenge and then beat the challenge. And I think that a difference is that, at least in this season, we haven't seen Ben be particularly confident with his ability to beat challenges. We've seen in his first run, he was pretty risk-averse, and then also here, the thought of crossing paths with Sam and Adam on the high-speed line deterred him from going. Whereas if it had been someone like Sam or Adam who may have had more confidence, it's possible that it would have been a strong move to go on the high-speed line and try to break through. But I just don't think that Ben ever really considered, like, if he thought that something would be dropped there, I think that that wasn't worth it for him.
Looking back on the season as a whole, we've had a lot of discussions of optimal strategies for the SnaKer and for the blockers. What do you think were the best and worst strategy moments across the season? And maybe I could start by saying that I do think some of the better moments were risky ones. Like, I think that Sam deciding to go to Osong and risk a battle challenge or a roadblock to optimize his routes going out of there was a great move that paid off. Adam and Ben using that tracker and then fortifying their battle challenge. Versus I think that some of the harder moments to watch were those based on predictions, even though that's kind of what the whole game is based on. But I just think that it was difficult to watch Ben and Adam construct this whole elaborate plan that was contingent on them being correct about their prediction of where Sam was going, knowing as the viewer that he wasn't going that way. And similarly, Ben and Sam, I think, using their roadblocks and battle challenges to try to really stay on top of the prediction by forcing Adam to go a certain way that ended up giving him an open path to the win.
I think those are all really good points, and I do think I agree. Something that I've been thinking about is that other than crashing into your own line, which is almost always avoidable just by making different decisions, as long as you're able to complete the challenge, you can't crash. And so I think we've talked about this a lot this season, that a really powerful tool and also a really dangerous tool is confidence in this game. And so I think that the best strategic moments have been when the SnaKer goes in with confidence. And the best strategic moments for the blockers are when they proceed with caution, where the blockers have an incentive to only really plan one step in advance and to be in a really malleable and maneuverable position. Whereas the SnaKer, there's really an incentive to try to barrel through, because even if you hit a challenge, if you approach it with enough confidence and enough je ne sais quoi, then you'll be able to power through and then you can't get stopped.
I completely agree with that, Reed, that the best strategic moments were either the SnaKer just being confident and full sending it on something, or the blockers being cautious and very strategic about what they do and knowing that, like, these are the cards we have right now and we can't predict what we're next going to get. Casey, I completely agree with you that the worst moments were the ones with predictions gone wrong. And it's not just that they were like, okay, there's a chance that it happens this way or a chance that it happens this way, and then they just guessed wrong. It's all the predictions that they were like, this is the way that it's going, and didn't consider that there was another option.
Yeah.
For example, Ben and Adam being so confident that Sam was going to go south and then completely flabbergasted when he didn't.
I'm also curious if there were any strategies that didn't get attempted that you think would have been successful.
I think the strategy that I was really excited for, and then we got the closest to it at the beginning of Sam's run, was the SnaKer just straight up moving onto the high speed line immediately.
Yes.
And then running for it. Because what if the blockers also had to get to the high speed line in their 1 hour of lead time? So what if they just don't have time to finish setting up the roadblock that they're doing? Or what if they don't draw a battle challenge or just don't have time to do something on the high speed line? Even if they're there, if the SnaKer just goes for it, they might just get run down.
I completely
And I would have really
agree.
liked to see the SnaKer just full send it immediately in their run.
I completely
That's such
agree.
a great point. I also would have liked to see how effective the secret block was.
Yeah.
Maybe we would have seen that it's not actually that productive and it's not actually doing anything, but it would have been interesting to see how it played out in an actual run.
Well, with that, I will pass things over to Kira.
Thanks, Casey. We've made it to the end of the season. So right before this season aired, we did an episode discussing the different strategies across the other round robin seasons, tag and hide and seek, in anticipation of this new format. Now that we've actually seen the full season, I want us to talk some more about where SnaKe fits in. In the game design episode of The Layover, Sam explained the framework where in tag, the solo person is moving and their location is known. In hide and seek, the solo person is stationary and their location is not known. And in SnaKe, the solo person is moving and their location is not known, which puts SnaKe squarely in the middle of the Venn diagram between these two other game designs. Which round robin structure do you think SnaKe has more in common with?
This is such an interesting question.
I really like this question. The snaker in SnaKe has the most in common with the runner in tag. Like, the snaker kind of feels like they're trying to avoid the blockers, trying to get ahead of them, trying to juke them and run circles around them, and that really reminds me of the runner in tag.
I would agree. I think that this season is definitely more similar to tag, especially because before we watched this season, I was expecting there to be a little bit more ambiguity around where the snaker actually was. And I think that especially in the latter half of the season, that was not true. We knew where the snaker was. The blockers knew where the snaker was. It was just a matter of getting ahead of them. I think that had more to do in the beginning. A little bit of a hide and seek, trying to figure out where they were in the country. But I also think that was because they didn't fully know the game as they were playing it. I think ultimately this proved to be a bit more tag focused of how do the blockers get in front of the snaker to be able to stop them.
I do think that the blockers had a lot of similarities with the seekers in hide and seek. Perhaps more so than the chasers in tag. Because in tag, the blockers don't really have to do anything. Versus in hide and seek, the seekers are figuring out what questions to ask, potentially doing challenges as they get cursed, things like that. And that reminded me a bit more of like the things that the blockers had to be thinking about in this season. I feel like this season was kind of a balance where the snaker really reminded me of tag, but the blockers really reminded me of hide and seek.
It's also interesting thinking about the reciprocal information in this season, which is something that we haven't seen before. Where in tag, the runner has no idea where the chasers are, but the chasers know where the runner is. In hide and seek, it's the reverse, where the hider knows where the seekers are, but not vice versa. Whereas here, the snaker and the blockers know the same amount of information, kind of. I mean, maybe the blockers know a little bit more about the snaker than the snaker knows about the blockers. But still, every time the blockers play something consequential to the game, when they put down a curse or put down a roadblock or a battle challenge, that's giving the snaker information in a way that I feel like we haven't seen before in another round robin season, that like mutual exchange of information.
Yeah, and I think that really comes with neither of them knowing each other's locations all the time, is that there had to be some sort of information exchange, and getting that balance right seemed really crucial to the game design of the season.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting hearing both of you talk about how the solo player felt more like tag, because I felt like the solo player felt almost more like hide and seek because of the whole the single best run takes it all mentality, where in tag, the sense of progress is like, I need to achieve this particular goal, I need to make it into this area, and then once I get into that area, I can just sort of hang out. And so we've seen a lot in tag seasons where a runner might intentionally strand themselves towards the end of a game. Whereas I feel like in that way, the strategy of the snaker feels more similar to the strategy of a hider, where there's an incentive to do a high-risk, high-reward run, because if your run goes really poorly, it's only going to be bad for that one run, but if your run goes really well, that could win.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. Because in both SnaKe and hide and seek, as the single person is moving, they're not thinking a ton about the next run. Versus in tag, as the single person is moving, they're sometimes talking about, okay, well, this person is the next person to get a run, and if I take this route, I would be setting them up really well to get ahead of us. Or if I go this way, it's going to screw the next run over. Or if I go this way, it's going to be really hard for me to get out of because then this will force us to take this route out on the next run.
Ooh, I do think all of this is so interesting. But with that, I will hand things over to Jaya for a game.
Thank you, Kira. It is the end of the season, which means it's time for the classic 1-star reviews.
Yay!
I have compiled a list of 1-star reviews for sites and attractions in the cities that they frequently visited. I've given you guys a list of places to guess from because some of these are decently hard. So the first one's on a tower in a city. And the title of this review is Good Place for Couples. The review itself reads, Romantic in the night with your couple, ... I have something from redacted city, redacted tower name, ... I have no couple, though. That's it.
That's so ominous.
Basically somebody saying, this tower would be a great place for couples to go and have a romantic night. Too bad I'm single.
My impulse is to say Seoul. You know, big city, loneliness.
I'll say Daegu because I feel like they went there a lot. And I feel like there were tall buildings that maybe you're calling a tower. I don't really know.
Kira, you are correct.
Ooh.
This is 83 Tower in Daegu. Next, Homigo Sunrise Square is probably the most overrated destination in Redacted City, thanks to the huge hand sculpture extending out of the water. Normally, hundreds would gather to get that sunrise photo on New Year's morning, but thanks to the rising COVID cases, the entire area was sealed off even days before New Year, and we had to settle for a photo of the hand sculpture from a distance.
Well, so this is coastal.
It's coastal, which is clear because it's on the water, and also because if you're doing a sunrise, you're going to be on the East Coast.
Right, that's what I was thinking as well.
Which makes me think, well, what's on the East Coast? It could be Pohang.
I was thinking Pohang for those reasons. But it could also be in the Northeast. I think it could be Pohang or Donghae. Maybe I'll say Donghae.
I'll say Pohang.
Once again, Kira, you got it.
Ooh.
It was Pohang. This is Homigo Sunrise Plaza. And my hint for you is that this place is billed as the first point on mainland Korea to be hit by the sun each morning. So it's a pretty popular destination.
Wow.
Next, at a temple. This is a nice, peaceful spot with many, many Buddha statues, ranging from huge towering pieces to little ones the size of a thumb. It's nice. I can't complain about the setting. However, it is a bit out of the way. And I think it was only built in the 80s or 90s, so it's not really historic or anything. Not sure why people like it so much.
The first thing that came to mind was Iksan, and I'm just gonna go with my gut.
I was originally thinking Seoul, but now it feels like it would be somewhere more rural than that. Okay, I want to say Gyeongju.
Neither of you are correct, but Kira, you're close geographically.
Ooh.
This was Yongcheon, where Adam overnighted after his first day of run. It was that city, but it was pretty close to where he started. Next, I don't understand why this was a 2-star review. Walk across the suspension bridge for an awesome view. Fun to explore the rocks. Hashtag in Korean, I translated it. It said hashtag wellness tourism destinations. Hashtag in English, wellness Korea. Hashtag in English, wellness tourism supporters. Hashtag in Korean, Korean Tourism Organization.
That sounds lovely.
The hashtags, the search engine optimization is really...
The search engine optimization on TripAdvisor.com.
Yeah.
I'll say Donghae.
I'll say Iksan again.
Kira, you are bodying this. This was Donghae.
Oh, yeah.
At a candlestick rock, basically just a really tall rock sticking out of the EC. It looked beautiful.
Wow. It deserved
Next.
better than 2 stars.
I know. It was the only low review, too.
That's so funny.
I will say, some of these places I just, struggled to find bad reviews for. It seems everybody just really likes all of the tourist spots in South Korea.
That's great.
Next, at a hot spring public foot bath. The title was, It's Just Sticking Your Feet in Warm Water. And the review was, It's really just a wading pool of allegedly therapeutic water, so it's nothing special. Koreans will definitely be more infatuated by it, but they've yet to visit the onsens of Japan, most likely. However, it's a good place to warm one's feet.
I'm feeling Chunin on this one.
I'm gonna go Iksan.
This was Daejeon. It looked lovely. At a park. This is a long one. This is a place where the local youths hang out to eat, drink, and chill out in general. We decided to come here to try the local fad, eating ramen noodles in the park. First, you have to go to the very crowded convenience store to get your ramen. Next, cook your noodles. The store provides every amenity that you will need for a hot bowl of noodles. Lastly, find a spot amongst the very crowded waterfront to eat. This was a good experience to enjoy your food, people watch, and see the world go by. However, the crowds and noise will seriously turn you off, or maybe end your appetite. Granted, this is a public location, and we came on a Saturday afternoon.
First of all, I love how long and detailed this review is.
So detailed, complaining about a public space being crowded on a Saturday.
Really helping future tourists.
Second, if this is not Seoul, I'm gonna lose my mind. I feel like this is such a, city, busy, tourism, food.
I'm gonna say
Seoul.
Osong because that's the only place that we've seen a park with water.
Kira, I love your intuition, but Casey, you're spot on. This is a park by the riverfront in Seoul.
Finally.
And finally, we have a water park. South Korea has, as far as I can tell, very few outdoor swimming pools. Living in England, and having been made to swim in water of 58 degrees Fahrenheit as a child, I cannot accept the argument that their summer is not long enough to have outdoor pools. So on a hot day in late May, I was taken to this water park because I hoped to get in some water. Unfortunately, half the park was shut, which was not stated on the tickets, which were, I think, about 35 quid per person. Wave pool, half an acre, shut. Lazy river, shut. I could not see an outside pool at all. No demand, I suppose. What was open was a U-shaped slide which you could go down on pairs on. Quite good. Made my Korean colleague shout from fear.
Wow. I love that. Lazy river, shut. I'm always saying that.
Angry British person.
Maybe I'll go Chunin again.
I'm gonna go Osong again, go wild card.
Casey, this is Chunin.
Oh!
Whoa!
That was such a random guess.
Ding, ding, ding. Great job on this 1-star reviews gauntlet. Kira, fantastic. You've won with 3 points to Casey's 2.
Yay!
And with that, Kira, I'll pass it over to you for our Rosebud Thorn.
Thanks, Jaya. Let's go through our Rosebud Thorn. So, Casey, we'll start with you.
My rose for this episode is that the toilet vlog really took me out. I thought it was so funny. It very much captured the emotion of staring at yourself in the bathroom mirror of any public transit.
Yeah.
And that whole moment of hiding in the bathroom to try to avoid being seen by Ben and then popping out really made me laugh. I loved it as silly antics. My thorn is that Adam setting up his winning moment of the battle challenge twice with the dramatic montage would have been so funny if Ben came through and ultimately won the battle challenge. So I think that is simply a missed opportunity for cinematic irony.
I loved that montage so much.
And then looking forward to season 15, my bud is that I have been wanting a season with both Toby and Michelle in it for ages. I am claiming this as a win for feminism.
Jaya, how about you?
My rose is that watching Sam and Adam continually not draw curses was so goddamn funny to me for some reason. Adam doing the math and Sam going, don't tell me the math. What's the math? And then Ben being like, why haven't they played a curse? They've gotta have one by now. I'm sure they have a master plan. And God, that was incredible. My thorn was Ben finally dealing with that curse and going, okay, I've been watching the doors. They don't usually stay open for longer than 2 minutes. And then guessing a number where 2 minutes wasn't even included in his margin of error. Like, brother, come on. My bud is that I'm really excited to cover circumnavigation with you guys over this off-season. It's going to be so spicy, and I haven't actually rewatched it since seeing it the first time over a year ago. It is going to be a blast.
Yay.
I agree. My rose is for the group snack zone. I thought it was so fun, and just what a blast to see all 3 jet laggers hanging out together. My thorn is that although I loved all of the challenges this season, it did feel like a lot of them were very hand-eye coordination based, and I think it could have been interesting to see a wider variety of different kinds of challenges that catered to different strengths. And my bud is that I am so excited for Tag All-Stars. I can't wait to see how they make tag work with 3 teams. I think that's so exciting. And I just think that all of the different pairings are so different from each other in such an awesome way. And so because this is the last episode of the season, we're also going to do a real quick lightning round of favorite moments. So Casey, what's your favorite moment from this season?
My favorite moment is the brief moment where Sam was in first place in a round robin season. We don't see that often, folks, so we gotta take advantage when we do.
Jaya, how about you?
I think this was a great season for snack zones in general, which I really loved, but the challenge that sticks out the most to me was the saga of Jimmy the Ant. I'm so glad Adam got a bug redemption after New York City, and that Ben got to do a lot of threats of violence because of it.
I agree. My favorite moment, I still love Sam's big brain Google reviews moment in O Song where he just went to the same park as Ben and Adam. I thought it was so satisfying and awesome. And with that, thank you for waiting at Baggage Claim. Let us know your thoughts on socials at baggageclaimpod or over email, which is in the episode description. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a comment or give us a follow. We'll see you next week as we start our off-season coverage at the Winter Town Baggage Claim. Only winners allowed. Goodbye.
Bye.
Adam once again wins the battle challenge, making him the wiener. Yikes.
One of our best misspeaks ever, I might declare.
Making him the wiener.
Making him the wiener of SnaKe.
It's the wiener of the snake.
Adam's the snake wiener.
No!